He's the president, Center for Digital Economy Policy. I have with me Jitin Jain. He's a leading cybersecurity expert. Shweta Dhandasani. She is a child and adolescent psychotherapist at the Family Tree, as part of the child and adolescent mental health team. And Itiva Chopra, she is a former chairperson of YFLO, and she's also a lawyer who practices in New Delhi and New York, and a mother of two adorable boys, in fact. So someone who knows what the kids are going through. So Jitin, I'll begin with you first. These dangers of these online platforms. We've heard their versions also. So what exactly are the kids facing today?
I mean, if you look at games like PUBG or now the Roblox, see the way the entire gaming industry is evolving. There is more immersive experience. You could design your own games. You could design your own avatars. You feel, you live in that virtual reality. So
Hmm.
and then from PUBG onwards, you are seeing that all these multiplayer games, you can do a live voice chat. You can interact. You can see each other at times in the video chats. You could talk to each other. You can buy things within the game. I mean, the idea is to use credit card to buy certain avatars or gadgets or something. So, this is Roblox is something else. It is basically addiction framework disguised as social network and a game where there are serious safety concerns about the psychological well-being and exposure and sexual exposure and the safety issues for children, because I mean the kind of violence these games have, kind of sexual exposure, even in terms of stickers and cartoons, which is very dangerous at times. Parents can't even figure out that's there.
Hmm.
And then there's this addiction, and when there is an addiction, there is an urge to go to a next level. So the moment you have this in-app purchases of different level in the games or avatars or something, children invariably in months or a year, they start using credit cards and debit cards of their parents without their consent, by sometimes by stealing it. We have seen many cases. So beyond social interaction and grooming risk, there are very serious issues of psychological risk where this unlimited dopamine available among children, which is leading to serious psychological harm in my case, which is a much bigger issue.
In fact, Shweta, you've been dealing with a lot of kids also, Roblox off and Fortnite, another game you told me about.
Yeah.
So this gaming addiction, I guess, would be the biggest problem for you. In fact, it's called an internet gaming disorder also, which a lot of kids are facing today. But tell us a bit more about the problems.
Yeah. I have reservations using any of these terms because it takes away the context. It takes away the context. So if we see, like Jitin was talking about, that it's a lot of dopamine. But if we see that there's a lot of stimulation in a very short period of time, that's the brain gets exposed to, and a brain that's underdeveloping, right? Now, sure, we can call it addiction, we can call it a disorder, but I think it's very important to take into consideration the time that we are living in. Like Priya, at the beginning, you were talking about spending time with your nephews and how they were not talking. Honestly, if you take away devices, I think the bigger question is, what are we offering them? Right? Especially
Hmm.
more so being in Delhi. We work with children and families, and if you take away devices, they can't go to parks. I mean, Delhi's weather, unfortunately, I'm specifically talking about Delhi. It's most of the time non-conducive for children to play out.
Right.
The parks, unfortunately, I see a lot of parks around there now being used to park cars because we don't have space to park cars and kids don't
Hmm.
come to play in the park. So I think before going to it's an addiction, it is actually a symptom. We may want to reflect on what is it a symptom of.
So, you're saying that's the times we live in, and this is the way kids, it's the best option for them to spend their time.
I don't know best, but most convenient for sure. And it's actually not just convenient for children.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it's convenient for all the adults around them. We
Yeah.
often notice that screen has become a very convenient, and it really breaks my heart to say this, but screen has become a very convenient and an easily accessible babysitter for families. Right?
Fair enough.
So we do come across parents, and they are very honest in acknowledging their limitation, that when we come back from work, we don't have anybody to attend, we have still work to do. So we actually ask them, why don't you watch something till we do this? So
No,
again,
I
I
get that. Yeah, but
yeah.
the problem that I was really wanting to focus on is a, of course, digital as the nanny or as the best convenient time, but also Itiva, there is, as a mother, I know, you obviously, I know you, so I'm sure you know the games. You don't just hand out the device to your kids. You do a careful screening also. Are you comfortable with Roblox? You or some of the concerns that have been raised over here, or is it because you are a hands-on parent, you are doing the screening yourself also? That helps as well. There is a need for that, right, Itiva?
So, Priya, honestly, when we started this whole journey of parenthood, me and my husband made a conscious decision. We're against guns and we're against video games. Uske aage, whatever the kids want to do, they can do. 8 months ago, we have thrown all our rules out of the window. uh, it's my children are 10 years and 12 years old. So, whatever you're talking about, I'm at sort of that pivot of that journey of parenthood where I have to sort of make all these decisions that we're discussing right now. So my kids actually worked extremely hard to try to convince me and my husband that Fortnite is not as bad as we in our heads have sort of made it out to be. So
Okay.
they came up with these points about peer pressure. They said, look at it like a harmless peer pressure, for instance. That was pretty funny.
Hmm.
But they said, we still do our sports, we still do our studies. We're okay in our exam. We get good grades. We go for our classes. We do our competition, swimming competitions and sports competitions. So let us do Fortnite. Me and my husband gave in. And to be honest with you, I'm definitely apprehensive. I don't know this world that they're in. Um, our PS5 lies in a room where we are all sort of walking in and out of. I play the game with them. I hate it, but I'm trying to be those parents that sort of sit with their children and connect with the children. So I try to get them to teach me. It's a world I don't understand. It's a world I'm trying to understand. I'm hoping we've made the correct decision. Um, let's see where that goes. It's difficult. It's a difficult age we're in, for sure.
It's a difficult age, Professor Jayajit, because also it's an age that we are, as parents, I think are not aware of. It's a whole new world for everybody. So where do we the checks and balances? Because it is easy. Of course, they have now. I believe Roblox. I've been reading after the controversy has made a lot more screening into age verifications, voice, face scan. So you can't just forge documents. There are a whole lot of checks and measures coming in. But at the same time, there are also, I believe, eBay sites with child accounts which are being sold to allow people access to Roblox. So how do we negotiate this world,
No,
Dr.
it's very
Jajit?
complex. You see, the problem is that Roblox looks very harmless. It looks bright, has bright colors, cartoon avatars, and many children logging in. So it looks very harmless. So the first step is for parents and the regulators to even recognize that there is a problem. Let me remind your viewers of the chilling example of Blue Whale, which is, I think,
Yes.
about 15 years old, where it actually pushed people to kill themselves,
Yeah.
to self-harm. That's the power that many of these algorithms have, the games have, and so on. So we don't know where the line needs to be struck. And as was mentioned by the psychologist, that the parents have no clue. They're simply switching on the digital platforms, giving it to the children, and then after that, there is no understanding of what the children are getting exposed to. Are the chats moving away from the platform to some other platform like Discord and so on? And what are the kind of content that the kids are getting exposed to? Now, it's good that the platform is taking some steps, but as you yourself mentioned, age gating is very difficult to ensure that a platform where there are millions of people coming in, that everybody is a child, is very difficult. Now, even within that, some child are older than other children, right? And we have seen juvenile criminals also being out there doing very heinous crimes. And Therefore, what is safe for a 10-year-old, for a 13-year-old, for a 15-year-old is very different. And again, as you mentioned, many of the accounts are up for sale. So they'll get children to create the account and bypass all of the face-based, face reading and AI, and therefore get the accounts and then sell it to real predators on the internet. And at the end of the day, we must realize that these platforms are not toys. When a parent comes and says that, "Hey, I'm busy," you keep yourself entertained with whatever you're seeing on the digital world. It's not the same as giving them a toy. Earlier, they would give the kid a toy. They would play with a train or or a teddy bear or whatever. Now, these are not toys. These are extremely potent instruments out there, and the children will end up talking to strangers on a daily basis. They wouldn't know whether this is another kid they're talking to or they're talking to an adult, whether they're getting sucked into conversations which are inappropriate, whether they're getting into grooming, and also the fact that the money looks very fake. It looks like they can simply spend this virtual money, but the credit card bill is a very real bill, and that comes back and hits the parents much later. So there are nuances to this platform which we need to be very, very careful about. And I believe there needs to be a larger regulatory framework, because such platforms will keep coming up, and it needs to follow a set of regulations which protects the.
Exactly. In fact, Jitin, you had also mentioned this about the consumerism also that is being promoted by these platforms, and we need checks and balances. Some games, I believe, have very limited chat words that can be used, "Hello," "Hi there," "Well done," or whatever, and a limited set of emojis that can be used. So, is that something that Roblox does not have? Fortnite, I don't know. It's also an online multiplayer experience where different games are there. So, I don't know how much of monitoring can happen. Is that the problem, regulation?
No, there is no regulation. I mean, like,
Right.
if you look at all these games, they are all labeled as kid friendly. You go to Google Play, you go to App Store, these are all
Hmm.
listed as, in the kids apps. So there is obviously an exposure to violence and all those things despite of kid friendly label. That doesn't work. And, Roblox is something very, very different, because in this, you could design your own games. So
And be
once
on the
you
platform.
allow
Roblox is just a
within the
platform.
platform, within the
Hmm.
platform. So once you allow children to design their own games, there is no professional vetting.
Right.
So and parents think that just because they are seeing some cartoon graphics and this game must be safe, which is the biggest misconception, and which is leading to the most dangerous, misconception, leading to exposures and everything. So you are seeing simulated violence, you are seeing the sexualized stickers, you are seeing horror themes. I mean, look at a 8 or 9 year old kid playing a horror theme game. And then there is this slow advancement towards gambling like mechanics, where you encourage children to spend or to achieve certain level. There is this peer pressure, and that leads to this dark world of dark monetization and financial exploitation of children. This is what nobody is talking about. These people are not selling addiction and this screen time just because for free. They are trying to make children your product. And how does it happen? Once you start playing for 6 months, 7 months, and you have, this, there is no other word I can use than addiction. Then
Hmm.
accidentally or impulsively push children towards spending. And these children don't even realize the value of money they are spending. So once you do, and they just know how to put a credit card number, and once you put the code, you can buy certain stuff. And then there's this peer pressure to buy items, because if you're playing with 12 players and 10 have bought a particular avatar of a skin, then you are also bound to buy. And Priya, you will not believe, I know two friends of mine, not friends, but friendly people. They are
Hmm.
making $2 lakh a month sitting in Dubai just by selling avatars of the games. And
Wow.
60% of the customers are children who are below 18. So, they are swiping cards. Below 18 people do not have cards. So, obviously, the cards which are being swiped are of parents. So, look at the market. A guy sitting alone in a room is making $2 lakh, not 2 lakh rupees, $2 lakh just by selling skins, avatars, and next level. Not only to adults, but to also children. So, and the last part I want to point out, the bigger problem is, I think one of our co-panelists were figuring out that we have thrown away all the rules. uh, Parents do not play the game themselves first before giving it to children. We have no idea what is there in the game.
Yeah,
It is
because we can't
barely
figure it out.
Yeah, so it is in the discussions we are discussing. Otherwise, 95% of the parents do not even play the game. They just see that, oh, it's a kid friendly. There's some cartoon characters, allow them to play. So I think that there some sort of regulation can come in that age getting is not working. Probably government could have a committee of 15, 20 people where you allow them to play top 100 games and rate them. And once you rate them, based on that rating, there has to be some time limitation. China has imposed that earlier, you couldn't play PUBG in China more than 45 minutes. Many other games,
Okay.
some games 30 minutes, some games 60 minutes, based on the content they had. So I think if the age getting is swelling, then the time waiting has to come in.
So have a transparent way of actually evaluating the games, like we have for films we used to have adult content, children content. We can at least maybe rate the games in a similar way, at least so people know what they're buying
No,
or
there
getting
are certain
into.
so there are certain open source projects where a huge group of parents sitting across the world watch certain movies and serials on different OTT platforms and they rate them. So if you are a parent and you say that your child is 8-year-old, 9-year-old, you want to have in that age classification movies free of any sort of accidental exposure or violence. So there's a list of movies available. So people are doing it for content. People are not doing it for games. So which is also a good commercial opportunity. Maybe Jajit would know.
On that. Yeah, good point. I'm going to get in on this, but after a very quick break, so stay with us. Hello and welcome back to the Newsx Sunday Guardian Roundtable. We are here discussing the impact of the digital world on kids, especially online gaming. The mental impact, Shweta, you said yes, maybe this is the best option, perhaps. Yes, you're right. But, this generation is also referred to as the wired generation because they're always wired onto something or the other. So the impact of engagement and also what they're learning from this world, as Jitin said, there's a lot of aggression out there. There's a lot of consumerism out there that is they are being exposed to at a very young age, and most of it unsupervised.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So the age that we usually see playing these games are between 7 to 13, 14. Of course, we have younger ones also playing and older ones also playing. But that's actually the age where there's a lot of physiologically, developmentally, there's a lot of energy and aggression itself may not be bad, but where does it gets an outlet? So
Yeah.
when that gets an outlet in this way, then sure, these video games, when you have a stimulation of aggression and violence, that's definitely not helpful. But going back to these video games, a lot of children we notice use these platforms to actually connect, and
Yeah.
it's really sad. Jitin was talking about peer pressure, or I think Dr. Jajit were talking about that we have had kids who have, we have met families, and kids very honestly say that, I go to school and I'm like the black sheep. There are other people who are only talking about Roblox or any other video game, and if I don't know about that, then I can't fit in. So a lot of the time they have to do something that they don't even like to actually fit in into peers. And it actually goes to a point where it's leading to a, don't like this phrase, but we are bringing up a generation which are so disconnected with themselves because they are so wired into the stimulus that there is no connection with the body.
Fair enough.
So these stimulations are actually very harmful.
Okay. But Itiva, so how do you do the balance? Because the peer pressure is very much there, and and why not? And some of these games are also educative. Also, people I've seen the kids today know so much more than what we did at their age. Also, in that sense, but there is, for instance, you can have a better control on your credit card. I don't see you guys really handing out your credit cards to the kids, but other things than that, how do you manage that to strike that balance?
Priya, before I answer your question, I want to get back, talk about a point Jitin made, about these avatars, for instance.
Yeah.
It was my son's 12th birthday. And you know how during our times at a birthday party, a gift would be like, usko ek t-shirt de do, ya usko ek toy de do. I'm not kidding when I say he was not concerned with the physical t-shirt he was getting or that physical toy he was getting, but these avatars on Fortnite were getting gifts, different skins they call it. So the skins that he was getting were much better gifts than the t-shirts he was getting physically. He was like, forget this t-shirt, ye mere avatar ko skin mila hai. But so
So
it's
that's
a
the
world.
world.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
the
if I
world
could
where,
just add there, actually, kids have asked their parents Robux. Robux is the money that you get in Roblox. That was the gift that they wanted for their birthday. That
Wow.
how important this is for children.
yeah. No, absolutely. I absolutely. This is a world we cannot understand, Priya. And as far as regulation is concerned, again, it's again, being at the position I'm in, it's a difficult position because you want to regulate, but then too much regulation also causes its own problems.
Mm.
So I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not. They sort of self-regulate. So, and I'm sort of there to check if the self-regulation is working. So during the week, on weekends, we have a time where we sit and discuss how much Fortnite do you want to play this week. Believe it or not, we actually have that discussion.
Negotiations.
We actually have that negotiation. So this week, for instance, it's no fortnight. Another week, for instance, it would be, Mama and Papa, you're out for dinner. This evening, just let us be. You guys aren't home. Just let us do what we want. Again, it's all fluid. It's all what you're feeling at that time. What's right, what's wrong? As a parent, I don't know, honestly.
But what you're monitoring is the time, Itiva. What about the content? That's the other worry.
Yeah, I am there. I am like I said, I'm trying to play this game, trying to understand it, trying to have my fingers work the way their fingers work. I'm trying to be there present. Someone told me that this digital age doesn't need perfect parents, it needs a present parent. I'm trying to be that present parent. I don't know whether it'll be correct, not correct. Let's see. Time will tell.
Time will tell. Fair enough. But Jayajit, how do we help Itiva and other parents in terms of Jitin spoke about regulation. You also spoke. I like the idea of having parents actually sit and evaluate the games and then maybe grade them, mark them to the area amount of exposure. Would that be a big step in the right direction?
As is coming out from the conversation, and Itiva also mentioned, it's a complex issue, right? Let me
Mm.
put some in context, right? And I think Itiva brought out very well. If I rewind 40 years, parents would say, this kid is now asking for comics. In our days, they would ask for a classic book. Look what have kids come down, right? So that will obviously keep evolving. Having said that, what we mean by regulation are three different things by three different people saying that. What Itiva meant by regulation is between the parent and the child, right? That's the regulation she's talking about. What Jitin is talking about is that there is no regulation. And therefore, what we are talking about is a need for government regulation because it's impossible for parents to keep track. So even if you're sitting with your child, you would not even know what's the meaning of the emoji, as was made very clear in the movie Adolescent.
Adolescent.
We will not be able to understand what's going on, and it's impossible. Look, we have our own life as parents and as people who have got other jobs to do. So there has to be another layer of policy making coming in, and we need to make sure that the platform scale makes moderation reactive and not preventive. It is the platforms come back after things have happened, right?
Mm.
Netflix is making changes after people have raised issue. It should have been before, right? So many kids have already been harmed, and then they are responding, and that's where the government regulation is important. And Jatin talked about business model. The business model rewards engagement and spending, not safety. They will be geared towards the bottom line, right? Which means that more and more kids get in, and it looks like a safe environment, and therefore parents allow them to get in, and then the milking of the kids happen, and that is again a problem area which our governments need to step in and provide a regulatory framework where such platforms get penalized for doing what they've
Ah.
done. And again, just because the government says so, things won't happen. For example, a stronger age verification or age gating process, as we call it, just because it's said, how will it be done, right? How will you know that the person on the other end is a kid and not a kid? But at least you should start taking the steps. The the regulatory envelope becomes tighter, so less number of bad actors come onto the platform. But it's very difficult in the digital age to take care of these issues, and therefore one should also see how the child is behaving. If the child's behavior pattern has changed, then a
Yes.
deeper investigation is needed. Just like you've got bullying in the schools, that's turning into a 24 by 7 situation, because 24 by 7 you're now hooked on to these digital platforms. And now that's terrible for a growing child. Again, as Shweta mentioned from her experience, the mind, the brain of a child is still getting wired. And then that time you're putting a 24 by 7 pressure on these kids. It's pretty much similar to what we see in terms of digital arrests that happen, where
Yes.
put through a stress day and night over days. It's a similar kind of stress, but it's happening on the kids because they need to respond, they need to have the dopamine, as Jitin mentioned, and therefore there has to be some check and balance. There has to be a reasonable amount of time for which they can be exposed, and then the platform should stop. How these will get implemented, again, that's a separate conversation to be had. But those are the challenges we need to move forward to. Another little point I want to mention is the concept of asteya. Asteya is a concept in Jainism which says you shall not steal, but more importantly, you shall not steal even time, right? And what these platforms are doing is stealing time from all of us, and that's the point that we really need to
Focus on. Jitin, you wanted to come in quickly?
Societies across the world for last 50 years have regulated. Asian societies, Western, African, for children, food, exams, medicines, everything is regulated. So I think there is no reason why we must not regulate the digital world. Australians are doing it. They've completely banned kids till 16 over social media platforms. And we don't know how the psychological impact is going to be on the society. I mean, like, you're taking away something where the society was addicted to, but that is a conversation we must watch out. Like Germany is doing that; they're banning smartphones for the children below 15. So these are the conversations that we keep an eye on, and it is very, very important for us that parental blind spot across society cannot be an excuse for the government to just get away with the responsibility of regulatory oversight. We must all ensure that in this society children are raised by parents, not by the platforms. Thank you.
Very well said. And as Itiva said, the parent has to be present, and that is really the
Yes.
most difficult challenge in today's very stressful world. But on the silver lining, in fact, the Roblox controversy was first pointed out to me by my 14-year-old nephew. So at least they're also aware of the pitfalls of this world.
Maybe
In
he
fact,
wanted some Roblox money.
he suggested I do a show on it. So maybe, yeah,
I
we haven't
can
yet gotten down
guarantee
to
you
the
that was the
transaction.
case.
You guarantee? I must ask him what the
It's interesting
transaction
to
is.
note the
It's
first three characters, which is ROB.
Hmm.
Platform seems to be tuned for robbing.
Robbing. I think they need to rebrand their name. But on that note, that's a very good point. Thank you so much for this conversation. In fact, leads to many more, which I hope to have with you. At what age should kids be exposed to smartphones, for instance? That was a very good topic. How much of social media time can they have? Can it be regulated? I think these are some very interesting questions that have come up from this conversation. Thank you so much.